Episode 120, Brian Koscienski of the Novel Guys. Good morrow, and welcome back to the Realm. I'm author J.V. Hilliard, and today I have a very special guest. He's one of three members of the Novel Guys that write novels about sci-fi and fantasy, horror, the Gothic, and of course, comics. And with that, I'm happy to introduce my very special guest today, Brian Koscienski. Brian, welcome to the Realm.
Hi, it's great to be here.
My pleasure. And Brian and I met at a convention here in Pittsburgh called Steel City Con a couple of months ago, and there was a big sign that said the Novel Guys, which clearly was going to attract me to your table. I came over and was a sucker and bought your whole series, of course, and started delving into it. But tell us a little bit about the Novel Guys. I mean, it's different than me as a solitary writer. You're always writing within a group of writers. How is that different? How is the feel of being inside a group and depending on others as part of your writing process?
Well, right now it's working very well. There are three of us, myself, another fellow, Chris Paisano, and Jeff Young. He's the newest novel guy. It actually started quite a while ago, just with Chris and myself. We had known each other for 10 years. And since we're guys and we communicate like guys, it took a third party to say, Brian, you know Chris writes? No. Chris, do you know Brian writes? No. Hey, Chris, you want to write together? Okay. So we just started writing some things together, and we formed our own publishing company called Fortress Publishing Inc. But over the years, we actually got smart enough to realize that we should not edit our own work between writing and publishing. So we found another friend, Jeff Young. He was the leader of the local writing group. We invited him to be the editor. I don't know why. He must have fallen and hit his head, but he agreed to. So once we got our feet under us, we decided to take the next step and publish a book. We didn't really know what to do. So during a drunken argument at Hooters,
which is where all good arguments come from, right?
Exactly. We literally held our corporate board meetings at Hooters once a month. So out of this argument, we decided to write ourselves in as characters of different horror stories that we wanted to explore and insert ourselves in and torture ourselves with. So one of our first publications is this anthology right here, The Drunken Comic Book Monkeys in Scary Tales of Scariness. So you can see Chris and myself, and of course, Jeff, the editor, looking very pained, as every editor does.
So, Brian, I find it interesting that the Novel Guys work across several genres. You've got horror as one and sci-fi fantasy as another, even young adult romance fantasy. Do you find it appealing to work across genres?
It does make things a little bit easy for us. Again, depends what kind of mood we're in, depends what our muse is telling us to do.
Fair enough.
Since there are three of us, it does open up the doors to pass off the work if you get stuck. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of having full-time writing partners.
So you as an author, do you have a personal favorite of genres?
Definitely for myself, I've been leaning a little bit more towards horror at the moment. Chris is a student of the Lovecraft and Poe, and then Jeff is definitely leans more steampunk and science fiction.
And do you feel that it could be an advantage when you go and sell, that you're selling a variety of books that are coming from different genres?
We think it is. So we do most of our sales through hand sales, through conventions, through bookstore events, through anything that we can participate in. And since we do write in so many genres, we feel comfortable going to any kind of convention.
I'm glad you brought up the point about conventions, because I think that a lot of viewers of the Realm that are convention goers and conventioneers, we're always looking for best tips to sell more books and sell more items at the shows. As someone who really does well at conventions, can you give us 3 tips on how to do best while we're there?
Oh man, I would love to know what those tips are. If you got them, give them to me. No, we do pretty well there. We have a good time, and I think that's tip number 1. Just have a good time. Our motto for conventions is we play for a tie. Our only goal at a convention is just to make table. Because if we weren't at a convention trying to sell, we'd still be there as attendees. We'd still have the same hotel room, the same meals. So as long as we make tables, we're happy. Number two, engage. We see a lot of creators just sitting behind the table, just not paying attention to what's going around them, not really being inviting. So we always try to make sure to stand up. Anyone who walks by, we say hi. If they're not interested, you know what? We're not going to try to sell to someone who doesn't want the product. And tip number three. See tips number 1 and 2.
Well said. You mentioned something before that caught my attention because I'm a comic book fan, graphic novel fan, and I think a lot of authors are. I go back to zombie cartoons that came out, The Walking Dead, Aliens, and the Predator stuff. But how do comics influence your writing? Because I can see it spanning every single one of the genres in which you write.
I think since comics blend visual storytelling with prose and dialogue, it's just such a unique way to tell a story. And when we tried to write some comic books, we did learn how to script write for comic books. So doing that actually helped us out regarding plotting, because the three of us aren't really plotters. And writing in a comic book script, it really forced us to take the story from a start to an end in 22 pages. That also really helped us with cliffhanger endings, enticing endings, make people want to keep reading.
I think you're right on. That's an interesting perspective on how that works. So Brian, our guests, every time I have them on the Realm, we end the show with a lightning round, which is a series of very short, snippety questions, asking for very specific answers in 1 or 2 sentences, perhaps a short phrase. So let me know if you're ready, and I'm going to throw it at you and see where we go with it.
All right, here.
Yeah, shake it off. Shake it off.
All right. Hit me. Let's see what we can do with this.
So, number 1, your favorite comic book character of all time?
I'm going to have to go with Vision from Marvel.
Good call. That's a contemporary one. Right. I like that. So, flipping the script, who is your least favorite comic book character?
I'm going to have to go with Superman. Just too goody-goody. He has so much power. It's just impossible not only just not abuse that power, but at least exert his opinions a little differently.
All right. Fair enough. And here's my last question. As a member of the novel guys, who is George? Who is Ringo? Who is Paul? And who is John? And are you ever thinking of adding a fourth?
Man, that is a fantastic question. I'm gonna have to say Chris is the quieter one, so I believe that was George, right? He's little. He never really took the center stage there. I'm probably Paul, just because I'm more of the mouthpiece, and then Jeff. He's probably Ringo. He's out behind us, goofing around, doing his own thing, and
kind of the soul of the group.
That might be what I'm saying.
Well, Brian, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it. I'm sure our viewers are going to love it, and thank you very much for being on the Realm.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for having me.
I told you, Brian is a pretty unique guy. Love his beard, love his hairdo, and I think he's somebody that takes his profession with a grain of salt and adds a little twist of sense of humor into it too. So I was glad to have him on the show. And with that, I want to remind everybody that book 3 of the Warminster saga, The Trillius Gambit, comes out in late March. I will ping everybody via social media and my newsletter when that's available. Thank you again for joining me on the Realm today, and may your gods go with you.